Hey everybody, Sirlin here to tell you about Fantasy Strike, and I am especially excited this time because I get to tell you about a new character, Lum the Gambling Panda. Lum is available today, and he's available to anyone that has Fantasy Strike on Steam. He has free DLC for everyone. Okay, so Lum, let me tell you about his character and personality, and then about his moves and his gameplay. So he's a panda, and he's from the Panda Lands, and the pandas love to gamble. Lum is no different. He loves to gamble too. He's a bit of a jokester or a troll, but he's a good-natured one. He just wants a lot of crazy different things to happen, hence his love of gambling. And somewhere in there, if someone gets a little bit screwed over, or someone is mildly annoyed, or there's something a little bit funny, that's what he's going for. And even though he might seem on the surface like a clown or a jokester, he's actually a very good gambler. He's very logical, and he knows the odds. So this whole gambling angle and this love of a bunch of crazy things happening, it gets reflected really well in his gameplay. So let me tell you about that. His key move is called Item Toss. When you do that, you'll throw out a random item. And you might be a little wary of randomness in a fighting game, but let me assure you that the way this works is really the most fun, best, and most skill-testing way to handle randomness in a fighting game. We'll get back to that. Anyway, he'll throw out a random item. Now, one of the items that you can possibly get is fireworks. When you get that one, a rocket will fly up off the screen. It can't actually hit. And then a few seconds later, some fireworks will rain down. Now, those fireworks cannot hit Lum himself. They can only hit the opponent, and that makes them very powerful. It means that Lum has a few moments of free reign where he can kind of do whatever he wants, and the opponent has difficulty doing what they want. So because this is so good, you want as many fireworks as you can, but fireworks are a low percentage item. So you really want to throw as many items as you can to maximize your chance of getting that. And all the items that you get along the way, they're useful too, but they're all so different, and they're used in different ways. They force you to use them in different ways. There's cherries, and if either player picks those up, they will get 1 hit point restored. There's a slice of chocolate cake, and if either player picks that up, they'll get plus 50% super meter. Another random item is a cloud that strikes lightning below. There's also a bomb that blows up and takes a bunch of space on the playfield, and that one can hit both characters. He's got other items that just help him. So anyway, there's a lot of variety. There's a lot of different things that can go on here. His ground super is related too, because that can also produce items. So when he does that, he starts to operate a slot machine, and then 4 random items spew out. You can actually do the item toss move, and then immediately after, you could do the slot machine super to get a total of 5 items in a row. So that's a lot of mayhem. And imagine if you got a slice of cake or 2 in there. That can restore your super meter, and it could potentially allow you to chain to another activation of the slot machine to get even more items. His air super is roll the dice. When he does that, he will throw huge dice onto the playfield, and he can knock those around. And there's a lot of tricky things he can do with that. So that's mostly about how the items work, but another aspect of him is movement, is just moving around the screen. He's got a rolling move where he rolls along the ground forward, and he goes pretty far, pretty fast. And that's pretty interesting to have on his character, because it means if there's some cherries or cakes on the ground, he's pretty able to pick those up. Gives him an advantage over the opponent there. Or there might be dice laying around. He can roll into those and knock several of them at once. Let's see. He's got an air move where he throws a watermelon, and when he actually throws it, the startup of it has him hang in the air a little bit, and that changes his trajectory. So that can be useful if you want to stay in the air a little bit longer, like to avoid the bomb explosion, which is again one of his own items. So you can see he's kind of set up to work around and work with his own items a little bit better than the opponent. though it doesn't always go his way. His most interesting and unusual move is his trampoline into cartwheel. So the way that works is he's in the air, you activate this move, and then he will fly downward onto a trampoline and then leap upward and do a cartwheel. Now the whole beginning of that, on the way down, the bouncing off the trampoline, and then the on the way up, all of that is actually terrible, and it can't hit the opponent at all. He's just vulnerable the whole time. But then once he starts spinning in the cartwheel, he's this huge panda. He takes up a big part of the screen. The hitboxes are incredible on this thing. It's safe on block. It can combo on hit. So it's a really, really good and powerful move once it gets going. And of all the characters you could give this type of move to, Lum is really the perfect one. Because if you have a move that has long startup where you're vulnerable, you want to have something to keep the opponent busy during that, to kind of cover the weakness. And that's exactly what Lum can do with all of his items. He can keep the opponent busy with the items, get through the long startup of that trampoline jump, and then use the cartwheel like right as an item is hitting, or somehow in combination with the items. So it's quite interesting to try to work that into his game plan. And now that you've kind of got a sense of what he can do and his moves, let's talk about the role of randomness. Now, if he could just choose exactly how it worked out, what items he gets, what you would do is you would just have one or two setups that would be kind of the best, and you'd practice those by rote in training mode. And that's really the opposite of what Lum as a character is about, and the opposite of what we're going for as designers. So what it's actually like to play Lum is hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of combinations of items will appear. The situations are different every time, and it's all about, can you take advantage of that in the best way? So it actually gives you a lot of chance to use some nuance to take advantage of whatever the current situation is in the best way. If there's some cherries, should you go for them, or is it a bit too dangerous? Maybe there's a bomb that's going to blow up right there. Maybe the opponent is ready to hit you right as you get the cherries into a combo. You've got to really judge when it's safe to do that. Or that the trampoline move I just mentioned, is it safe to do that right now? You've got an item covering you, sort of, but maybe it's not enough. And so on and so on. There's a huge, just vast sea of different things that happen when Lum is in the match. And there's quite a high skill ceiling to be able to take advantage of that well. So it's really interesting that the randomness that he brings to the game actually adds a lot to the skill test. It adds an improvisational skill test. You have to develop your item sense to know how to best take advantage of what's there right now and what's likely to come soon. So Lum is super fun. I really urge you to try him out. And like I said before, he's available today, and he is free to anyone that has Fantasy Strike on Steam. If you don't have Fantasy Strike, please buy it and support us. Check out Lum. Thanks.